Welcome and welcome back, everybody, to the Okay Grognard Network. Today, Today is July 12th, 2026, beautiful Lake Geneva, Wisconsin, and we're going to do our first Guideline Sunday show, new part of the network where we do several shows. And the focus of it is going to be on the first edition Advanced Dungeons & Dragons Monster Manual, the first TSR hardcover. Isn't that something? It was a big deal for them. It was a big deal for gaming in general. And we're going to discuss that by looking into it a little bit. Just a quick note, the Okay Grognard Network has, of course, three main shows, Guidelines on Sunday, the OS Watch, the Old School Watch on Wednesday, and Periodicals Friday. We just did a Periodicals show on Friday about the first Dragon magazine. It was a good place to start that new show. We went through about half of it. We'll go through the other half in a follow-up show, and we'll probably keep the Len Lakofka miniatures rule tournament that he was setting up for Gen Con that year as a separate show all to itself. Kind of do a wargaming show on that. It's in the periodicals, but we'll probably isolate it and do it as a whole show on its own. I think it's important when we do these guideline shows to try to focus mainly on the rule books. There'll be some other material filters in from time to time because there's some overlap there, but mainly we'll be looking at the books. And today, of course, first edition Advanced Dungeons & Dragons Monster Manual. I think, let's look at the D&D chronologically. There's a website. I'll put a link in the show notes to it. And it's been building up for a little while now. Fellow who's reading through all of creating a chronological timeline of TSR D&D product releases with the dates that he's gathering up from the internet, various different places. You can read all about that here in his introduction. And it all feels very correct to me. He's sourcing everything very astutely. And, of course, original Dungeons & Dragons came out January of 1974. We've heard some other dates. But he's sourcing from several places and has decided on that. 1975, we've got that first strategic review. In the periodicals Friday shows will eventually get around to doing stuff on the strategic review. That first supplement to original D&D. Greyhawk came out in March of 75. Got a number of things here, including Blackmore and more strategic reviews. And if you'll notice here, 76 was a busy year. It included Eldritch Wizardry, the first Dragon magazine, which we spoke of on Friday, and we're talking about Palace of the Vampire Queen, the first published module, Gods, Demigods, and Heroes, Supplement 4 for original D&D, Strategic Review, Strategic Preview. Now note that there were 5 strategic reviews in Volume 1, and then 2 in Volume 2, and then they switched it over to an in-house magazine for 4, 5, 6, and I believe 7. But at that point, they decided to start Dragon Magazine and go all in with a full magazine. Notice Gygax's first published module, Lost Caverns of Tsokanth. And I think probably the thing for us to really note here is in 77, because at the end, in December of 77, the Monster Manual is finally released. We're already at Dragon number 11 by then. We've had some assortments, Monster and Treasure assortments. There's been a few geomorphs. There's been several sets of those, and the character record sheets, and a lot of other little things that came out. But the big thing, I think, is the basic set for Holmes, which I think gets mentioned kind of vaguely by Mike Carr in the Monster Manual. We'll get onto that in just a minute. Let's have a look back over here for a second when we change things up a little bit. Don't forget the link for that and some other things like EGGCon, which is coming up this weekend, will be linked in the show notes, so be sure to check those out. Let's see. I think we've got this. Yeah, we'll save that. We'll switch over to the full screen so we can look at the forward. This is by Mike Carr. I've taken some screenshots of the PDF for that so that I can break it up into chunks. But let's dive in. It is with a certain measure of pride that we at TSR bring you the second part of the new Dungeons & Dragons releases. And there's a nod to the Holmes Basic set. The long-awaited Monster Manual for Advanced D&D. We are doubly proud of the format of this book, i.e., its special hardcover, a first in the gaming world and another step in our continuing quest for top-quality products. As time goes on, the D&D phenomenon shows no sign of subsiding. Indeed, the popularity of Dungeons & Dragons continues to grow and grow. This trend is very gratifying to us at TSR and encourages us to devote even more time and attention to D&D. Parenthetically, witness this series of advanced Dungeons & Dragons, in parentheses, and related materials, playing aids, accessories, etc. Our aim is to provide a top-quality family of products for use with the Dungeons & Dragons game systems, items that we hope you will find useful, innovative, and enjoyable. With the outstanding growth of the Dungeons & Dragons has come the growth of TSR hobbies, since it is no secret that the fantastic response to D&D has allowed TSR to expand and explore many new directions in the gaming hobby. Therefore, we owe our thanks to you, the many devoted gamers, who have supported TSR through your enthusiasm, your encouragement, and finally, your purchases. Our livelihood depends upon your continued support, and we intend to keep earning it by continuing to bring you innovative products in the future. We appreciate the widespread audience that our games, and especially D&D, have achieved, and we look forward to increasing the exposure of our games and rules. Without such an enthusiastic and loyal following, this would not be possible. So we thank you. So he's quite effusive in a nod to the gaming world and how much support has come. Without a doubt, as a branch off now from the wargaming hobby, with the advent of original D&D, and then that basic set, and then the move into this, Gary already hard at work writing the rest of the first edition books. They definitely were going all in. He continues, the success of Dungeons & Dragons has spawned a considerable number of imitations and spin-off products, perhaps inevitably. Some of these have merit, many, however, do not. And although we may concede their right to exist, however dependent they may be on D&D's audience, we would caution the prospective buyer to consider their true value and not to be confused with those items which bear the Dungeons & Dragons or Advanced Dungeons & Dragons name and constitute the official D&D family of products. As for value, let the others be measured against the standard of quality we have striven for. A hard-bound encyclopedia of monsters, for instance, as opposed to a low-quality collection which is poorly assembled and bound. So he's really diving into to the idea that they're coming out with these hardbound books, which, as well they should. It definitely sets them apart in the gaming world. There are a lot of other things going on, but most others are softbound, sometimes box sets, but very, very little is going to be hardbound for some time. He continues, this present work as will be apparent from its sheer bulk alone, is the result of a considerable amount of work and preparation by many persons. All this has been undertaken with an eye toward providing a final result which can be regarded as the definitive collection of monsters for Advanced Dungeons & Dragons, an encyclopedic collection of information certain to be of invaluable use to players and dungeon masters alike, complete with game specifications, background details, and in many cases with an illustration in addition. Oh, are we in Wisconsin? I hear a motorcycle. Yeah, we are. Right here where this book was originally pounded out almost 50 years ago. Of course, no work can be truly definitive, for as long as players possess an active imagination, many new and fascinating monsters will continue to arise, and this is only as it should be. One final note. As valuable as this volume is with its wealth of information, some DMs may wisely wish to forbid their players from referring to the manual in the midst of an encounter, since it will be considerably more challenging to confront a monster without an instant rundown of its strengths and weaknesses. And besides, a D&D player's true mettle and knowledge will be put to the test. And as even the most casual D&D player knows, that's what this fascinating game is all about. Read on and enjoy. Mike Carr, 27th of September, 1977. So what we have after this is the lineup of all of the monsters in a table of contents, alphabetically, and they slip in Gary's preface right here. He says, the various monsters contained herein are for use in Advanced Dungeons & Dragons. Parameters have been set for that game. Those monsters, drawn from my original work, have been revised and expanded upon accordingly, except as noted, all new monsters are strictly of this author's creation, just as all those which appear in the strategic review were, and I take the burden of full responsibility for them. It is necessary to acknowledge the contributions of the following persons: Steve Marsh, for devising the creatures for Undersea Encounters, which originally appeared in Blackmore, as I have radically altered them herein. Errol Otis, for doing the preliminary work and illustrations for the Ankeg and Remoraz, which appeared in the Dragon. Ernie Gygax, for the Water Weird, one of my favorites, by the way, and for his help in solidifying many of the characteristics of the creatures herein. Terry Coons, who was never thanked for his prototypical Beholder, a revised version of which was included in Greyhawk, and to the whole crew at TSR, and to Brian Bloom, Tim Kask, and Dave Sutherland in particular, is due thanks for helping me get this whole project to a manuscript, and to my wife Mary, who has been stuck with the job of typing most of the manuscript. My apologies for mistakes needing correcting, and my admiration for staying with it day after day. If I have missed thanking any other person, please pardon the oversight. So Gary is very generous with the thanks, but of course he's very proprietary with the rights to everything that's in this book. It's no secret that we know in retrospect that there was some division between Gary and Dave Arneson, and there was an idea that this was going to be its own rules, regardless of how much it gained from the original Dungeons & Dragons, and regardless, let's be clear, how much of original Dungeons & Dragons was actually Gary's interpretation of what Dave had given him in some rather disjointed notes. Obviously, what happened in Minnesota from Dave Wesley's wonderful Brownstein and all of the Blackmore games that went on as prototypical RPG games, all of that highly influential on what became Dave and Gary's original Dungeons & Dragons. And I think it goes without saying, but I'm going to say it anyway, that without original D&D and the Blackmore, Minnesota bunch, and of course Dave Wesley's wonderful Brownstein, there is no advanced Dungeons & Dragons. So Gary, I think, overshooting the mark, making a claim that this existed whole cloth on its own. I understand what he was doing. I don't think it was really fair. And I'm a big fan, and it's hard for me to say anything that is not pro-Gary when it comes to Dungeons & Dragons, because I'm a definite fan of advanced Dungeons & Dragons in particular. And it's a shame. It's a shame that there was a falling out there. I'm not sure that anyone at TSR or in their circles was as ambitious as Gary was. I think if you listen to the excellent 14-part podcast, I think 14, it's probably more, When We Were Wizards, you can hear in their own words through correspondence read out by individuals, that correspondence that went back and forth, what was going on in those days, and pretty much how it all fell out without knowing what was in their heads necessarily. And yet, I think it's worth knowing all that stuff when you step into old school D&D, even though that's not part of the game itself, because it helps contextualize what's in the books and what games you're playing and why you're playing them. I did mention... oops, that's not what I want. I want to do this here and get the alphabetical table of contents going here. Let's see if we can bigify that a little bit. There's that Onheg and all those other creatures. Right on down to the Water Weird and the Zombie, Yeti, Zorn, all of them. There's our preface. And let me also point out that I think that without Gary's ambition and without his need to, well, let's say control TSR and its fate, I'm not sure any of this happens at all. I think he is the linchpin to everything that became the industry of role-playing games. I don't doubt that what they had in Minnesota was a very important development, and that they may still be playing that in circles today. I'm not sure any of that stuff ever becomes a public product available widely and worldwide, and in the way that it has become 50 years later without Gary's driving force. So I got to put that on him more than anyone else. But let's look into, and we're doing on time, with 20 minutes in, I think we can look into quite a bit of this monster manual interior text. We won't get into individual monsters, but let's look at some of the explanatory notes. The term monster is used through this work in two manners. Its first and most important meaning is to designate any creature encountered, hostile or otherwise, human, humanoid, or beast. Until the encountering party determines what they have come upon, it is a monster. The secondary usage of the term is in the usual sense, a horrible or wicked creature of some sort. Thus, a quote-unquote monster is encountered during the course of the dungeon expedition, and it is discovered to be an evil high priest who just might turn out to be a monster in the other sense as well. Note, however, that despite this terminology, humans and such kin as dwarves and elves and gnomes, half-elves and halflings, not hobbits, halflings there, always use the matrix for humans when attacking, even if such humans were encountered as monsters in the course of the adventure. Frequency is the next parameter used for the encyclopedic individual creatures in this book. Frequency refers to the likelihood of a particular creature being encountered in a region or area where it might be an inhabitant. Very rare indicates a 4% chance of occurrence. Rare indicates an 11% chance. Uncommon indicates a 20% chance. And common indicates a 65% chance. These probabilities are considered in the encounter matrices found in the Advanced Dungeons & Dragons Dungeon Master Guide, which doesn't come out for another 2 years, but it is mentioned right there in this printing. Number appearing indicates a good average spread. This number is furnished as a guideline only, and it should be altered to suit the circumstances particular to any adventure as the need arises. It is not generally recommended for use in establishing the population of dungeon levels. Armor class, as many of us know, describes the general type of protection worn by humans and humanoid creatures, protection inherent to the creature due to its physical structure or magical nature, or the degree of difficulty of hitting a creature due to its speed, reflexes, etc. Move shows the relative speed of a creature on a constant basis. Higher speeds may be possible for short periods, but as this is generally applicable to all sorts of creatures, a constant is shown. It can be scaled to whatever time period is desired by adjusting ground scale accordingly. The number might be double, and this indicates that the creature can travel in 2 mediums or modes. So, you've got flying speed, swimming speed, burrowing speed, and speed in a web for spiders and the like. Hit dice, as explained here in the Monster Manual, indicates the parameters of the number of hit points a creature can withstand before being killed. Unless stated otherwise, hit dice are 8-sided, 1 to 8 hit points. The indicated number of dice are rolled, and the numbers shown on each are added together to arrive at the total number of hit points. Some creatures have hit points which are less than a full 8-sided die, and this is shown by stating their hit dice as a point spread. Some creatures have additional points added to their hit dice. This is indicated by a plus sign followed by a number shown after the number of hit dice they have, i.e. hit dice 4 plus 4, which equals 4 to 32 hit points plus 4 hit points, or 8 to 36 hit points. Yeah, we're pretty far along. Percentage layer indicates the chance of encountering the monster in question where it domiciles and stores its treasure, if any. Very important. If a monster encountered is not in its lair, it will not have any treasure unless it carries individual treasure or some form of magic. Whether or not encounter is occurring in the monster's lair might be totally unknown to the person or persons involved until after the outcome of the encounter is resolved. Treasure type. You know what? We're going to save the rest of this for a part 2, and this is a good place to do that since treasure type and the treasure tables at the back of the book will need to be explored as we explore in a part 2. So we've got probably about half the front end explanatory text to continue with next time, and then we'll look at some of the appendices, which include the treasure type tables and some encounter stuff. And let me see. Individual monsters, of course, we won't go over here in these 2 parts. Appendices include the treasure types and the percentages of A through Z. Index is something we can just kind of gloss through. And, of course, we've got... Well, such beautiful illustrations. And there's some information at the back of the book in regard to other available products in this later printing of the book. But part 2 will be explanatory notes and the treasure tables at the back. And that will be next time. So thanks for jumping in on this one. We appreciate it very much. We've been looking at the first AD&D Monster Manual, the first hardcover, as part of this Guideline Sunday Okay Grognard Network show. Shows are recorded on Twitch most Sundays, Wednesdays, and Fridays, then uploaded to YouTube for convenient streaming. Please do like and subscribe and follow and all of that good stuff. And thank you to all who watch and support my efforts. Please back the channel, even at the free level, on Patreon. Join folks like those mentioned here. It would be very much appreciated. I can't thank everyone enough. Thank you so much. But don't forget, the OK Grognard Network now consists of 3 different main shows: Guideline Sunday, the OS Watch Wednesday, and Periodical Friday. Oh, and you know what? I wonder if we can just kind of pop back off that long enough to say AGGCon 3. Got some information, got a link in the show notes. Don't forget that's this week. So if you're in the area and you can go, that would be very much appreciated too. Thanks so much, and we will catch you next time. Bye-bye.